Okay, this is a video for the Unit 7 review for algebra. If you can see, we're going to write the following in vertex form. When we're given the point of the vertex, we're going to be using the vertex form right there to kind of explain everything. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find A. So the first thing we want to find is A. So we got a little piece of paper right here. So number one, this is my H, this is my K. The vertex has the letters H and K, the point has X and Y. So I'm going to use this and plug everything in. So here we go, f of X equals, and I'm just going to go ahead and write everything here just so you can kind of see how I'm following it. This is an H right here. Okay, so f of X is the same thing as Y, so we're going to put a 2 here. We don't know the letter A, so we're going to leave the A alone. X is -4. This subtract is always there. The H here is a -3 square, and the K is a -1. We don't have to put the plus -1, just put -1. So we're going to say 2 equals A. We always do what's inside the parentheses. Now, if you notice, I have two negatives, so that means a positive. So I'm going to go ahead and just write it so you can see it better. -4 plus 3 is -1, and we're going to square it. Now, this is always going to be positive. -1 times -1 is 1. So really, it's 1A, and this -1 we bring down, and then the 2 here. Now, I don't have to write A, 1A. I can just write A. So I'm just going to write it like this so you can see it. This is the way it really should look like. We don't need to put the 1 there. So A is being subtracted by 1, so the opposite is add 1 to both sides. So my A value is 3. Now, all I'm going to do is take the vertex form again. That's this guy here. I'm just going to take this, and I'm just going to plug in my A, my H, and my K. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to leave my X and Y alone because every equation has an X and Y in it. So here we go. F of X equals A is 3. Leave X alone. H is a -3, and there's a minus here. So that looks like that. Square, and my K is a -1. So I'll put a -1 here. So I got F of X equals 3. This is X plus 3 square minus 1. So this is my answer. This is the vertex form right there. All right, so we're going to do this one right here, same way. This is my H, this is my K, this is my X, and this is my Y. So we're going to use the same formula. All right, my f of X is the same thing as Y, so that's 2. I'm trying to find my A. My X is 2. My H is 0, so I'll put a 0 here. We're going to square it. And my K is a -1, so we're going to put a -1 there. So I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses first. That is the letter A, not a 9. So 2 minus 0 is 2. And remember, I'm going to square it. 2 squared, that's 2 times 2, which is 4. So that's 4A. Remember, we always put the number in front of the letter. I'm going to get rid of the add and subtract first. So I'm going to subtract 1. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Divide both sides by 4, and my A equals 3 over 4. Again, I'm going to go right back and use my vertex formula. And I'm going to plug in 3/4 in for that A right there. So it's going to be f of X. I'm not going to touch my Y value. 3/4, and I'm not going to touch the X. My H is 0, and it's -1. Now, I could leave it in this form. This right here is the correct vertex form. I don't have to change it. You can leave the 0 on there if you want to. It will be correct. If you want to clean it up a little bit, you can. Both will be right. All right, so both of those are correct. You can see an answer on SAT with a 0 on there like that. All right, so now we're going to go into number 5. Number 5 is asking you, I'm sorry, number 3. Number 3 is asking you to convert it into standard form. So the first thing we're going to do is write this out twice. So we're going to do the box method. All we're going to do is multiply. So x times x is x squared. X times a -2 is a -2x. Negative 2 times x, a negative 2x. Negative 2 times a negative 2, well, that's positive 4. So this whole thing is what we have in the parentheses here. Then I got to bring down my other negative 4 and bring down my negative 3. I'm going to clean up the guys in the middle here. So it's going to be negative 3 x squared. A negative 2 and a negative 2 gives me a negative 4x. And I have a plus 4 here. And then we have a minus 4 on the outside. Now remember, we always have to distribute first. So this negative 3 gets multiplied to everything in the parentheses first. Not to that guy, just to everything in the parentheses. So it's going to be negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times a negative 4 makes a positive 12x. A negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. So I better make this look better. That's a negative, that's a positive 12x right there. And we have the minus 4. Now we just got to finish up the last part here. Just this part here is left. So f of x, negative 3x squared plus 12x. And a minus 12 and a minus 4 give me minus 16. So there's my answer right there. All right, so we're going to do this one. Same thing. We're going to write this one twice. If you notice, we write it twice. All right, I'm going to put the plus 3 here. Put 1/4 on the outside. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 4 is 16. And then plus 3. And I'm going to put that in parentheses because it's still there. Got to clean up the guys in the middle here. So it's 1/4 x squared plus 8x. Remember, that's a plus 4 and that's a plus 4. Plus 16 and then plus 3. Now we're going to distribute the 1/4 to everything. So this is going to be 1/4 x squared plus, now if you multiply 1 times 4, that's 8. Divided by 4 is 2. So this is 2x. 1 times 16 is 16. Divided by 4, it makes 4. And we have a plus 3. So now we combine these two guys in the back. So my final answer here is 1/4 x squared plus 2x plus 7. And that's my answer in standard form. All right, so that's it. Now, 5, 6, 7, 8 is where we do the descriptions. And so I'm going to do each of these. And so that way you can kind of see it. And hopefully this will. So I'm going to say we're going to go, because of this guy's outside the parentheses, we're going to say shifts down. I'm sorry, shifts up 2 units because of that 2, because it's outside. Remember, it's outside the parentheses. This one's inside, so it's the opposite. So you see a minus. So think you go left, but no, you really go the opposite, which is right. So we're going to shift right. All right, 2/3 is less than 1. It's a fraction, and it's on the outside. It's not on the x. It's on the outside. So it's vertical. You say vertically, and now remember since it's a fraction, the parabola is going to be wide. And so what do I do to my y-axis to make it wide? And you'd push down on it. So otherwise, think of it this way. If you have your parabola and you push, you can't see my hands, but if you push down on it, it makes it wider. So we want to say vertically compress. There's a negative on the outside. It's not on the x, so we're going to say reflects over the x-axis. Remember, if whatever the negative is on, it's on the opposite. That looks good. That looks like everything. All right, so we go here. See how the negative is not on the x? It's outside the parentheses, so it reflects over the x-axis again. All right, it doesn't matter which order we go in. There's no number out here, so we're good, but there's a number here. The number's on the x, so it's on the x, so it's horizontal. So it's horizontal. We say horizontally. Now, it's a big number, so that means it's getting narrow. The parabola is getting narrow. And because it's getting narrow, that means what do we do to the x-axis to make it get narrow? So we compress the sides. We push the sides like this together, and it makes it narrow. So compress means this way. If we're stretching, then we pull it apart and it gets wider. compress on the sides with HX, the horizontal axis. So we're going to say compress. This is inside. Remember, it's the opposite. So that's this plus. So we're going to shift left 1 unit. This one's outside. So that means we go up and down. So that means shifts down 3 units. That's it. All right, this one is in standard form, so we only care about a couple of things. This right here tells us that it shifts up 7 units. This here, since it's big number, it's getting narrow, so we can say narrow. It's also positive, so we know it opens up. And that's all you need to know. All right, this one, see the parentheses. Now, the difference between these all have parentheses, and because they have parentheses, then you might want to look at reflect or horizontal or vertical, but this one does not have parentheses, so we don't have to say horizontal or vertical or anything. All right, so this one, the negative is on the X, so it reflects on the other letter, reflects over Y-axis. See how the numbers on the X, the negatives on the X, all right? So number that's 3, so it's on the X, that's horizontal. So horizontally, and it's 3, so think what does it do to the parabola when it gets bigger than 1? It becomes narrow. So what do I do to the horizontal axis again to make it narrow? I compress. All right, this right here tells me that it's inside, so it's the opposite. So when you see plus, it means it shifts to the opposite direction, which this time it shifts left 4 units. We don't have a number out here, so it's not going up and down. So we got shifts up 4 or shifts left 4. The 3 tells me that it's horizontally compressed. It means it's getting narrow. A negative tells me we're reflecting. That's it. That's how you do this.